So start by factoring the numerator, perfect square, two numbers that multiply to 1, or to -1, or 1 and 1, 1 and -1, so x plus 1, x minus 1. Two numbers that multiply to -3, we would have to use 1 and 3. In order to end up with a positive 2, the 3 should be positive. And x plus 1 and x plus 3 are already as simplified as they're going to get, or as factored as they're going to get. Now, in this one, typically what you're going to want to do with a subtraction or an addition problem is look for a common denominator. But this problem, we can actually simplify and cancel out the x plus 1s in that first fraction. So we have x plus 1 over x plus 3 minus x plus 1 over x plus 3. They have a common denominator. So I have x plus 1 minus x plus 1. So what am I going to end up with? 0. Thank you. So restrictions. I have x minus 1. So x can't equal 1. I have an x plus 3, so x can't equal -3. And then I have another x plus 3, which I already dealt with. So your answer would be 0, and x can't equal 1, and x can't equal -3. If I look at 19, the numerator in the first fraction is already factored for us. The denominator can't be factored. Second fraction, the numerator is as factored as it's going to get. The denominator can be factored, however. So x plus 2, x minus 2. So in order to add these fractions together, we are going to need a common denominator. So this one has x plus 2, x minus 2. This one has x minus 2. So they both already have an x minus 2, but this one also has an x plus 2. So this one is going to need an x plus 2. So I have an x plus 2 times x plus 4. I'm just going to move the x out front of that. Plus x minus 1 all over x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay. Now, in order to simplify this, we are going to have to expand out, FOIL and distribute this mess right here. So we need to FOIL this, which is going to give us x squared plus 6x plus 8. Then I'm going to distribute the x. So I have x cubed plus 6x squared plus 8x plus x minus 1. Combine like terms. x cubed plus 6x squared plus 9x minus 1 over x plus 2x minus 2. I would just go with that for an answer. You should try to factor the top if you can, but don't worry about it in this case if it's an x cubed or an x to the fourth. So, restrictions. Go back to our original fraction. We have x plus 2, x minus 2. So x can't equal 2 and x can't equal negative 2. So one way of dealing with this problem is to just multiply everything by 4. Both sides by 4. Okay. The other option is to cross multiply. If you have a single fraction equal to a single fraction, you can just cross multiply. Okay. So either way will work. Both sides get multiplied by 4. So 4 and 2 can cross reduce, so I'm left with 2x. These 4's will cancel, leaving me with x plus 1. Subtract x, 2x minus 1x is x equal to 1. Now these directions tell us to check our solutions. So we should go back and plug in 1 for x and make sure that it works. So 1 over 2, does that equal 1 plus 1 over 4? Does 1/2 equal 2/4? Yes. So that is our solution. So again, in this one, you have two options. You can cross multiply. So you could cross multiply and get 3 times x squared minus 1 equals x plus 1. And solve that. So you'd get 3x squared minus 3 equals x plus 1. Since you're dealing with an x squared, I would subtract x and subtract 1 from both sides. And get 3x squared minus x minus 4 equals 0. And then either factor or use the quadratic formula to solve that. The other option, x squared minus 1 will factor into x plus 1, x minus 1. So our common denominator between the two fractions will be x plus 1, x minus 1. So my other option is to just multiply both sides by x plus 1, x minus 1. So on the left, my x plus 1's will cancel, leaving me with 3 times x minus 1. On the right, my whole denominator will cancel, leaving me with 1. I would have 3x subtract 3 equals 1. So 3x equals 4. Divide by 3, x equals 4/3. And then we'd have to plug that back in and see if... Okay, so if we look at this one, we have an x, we have a 3, we have an x squared. The common denominator, we need to have a 3 and the higher power of x, which is going to be x squared. So multiply both sides by 3x squared. So I'd have 3x squared times 1 over x plus 3x squared times 1/3 equals 6 over x squared times 3x squared. One of those x's will cancel with that x, leaving us with 3x. That 3 will cancel with that 3, leaving us with x squared. X squared will cancel with x squared. So 6 times 3 gives us 18. So I have x squared plus 3x. Since I have an x squared and an x, I'm going to bring everything to the left. Minus 18 equals 0. See if you can factor it. So numbers that multiply to negative 18 and add to 3. 6 and 3. Since the 3 is positive, we want the 6 to be positive. So x would equal negative 6 and x would equal 3. And then you'd have to test those answers. See if they work.